happy to have singer-songwriter, producer, documentary filmmaker, philanthropist, fine art photographer, New York Times best-selling author, and it's been a long time coming. I can't wait to get in and talk with him. Julian Lennon joining me today. Julian, thank you so much.
Hello. No. I mean, talk about overachiever. Never mind. But thank you, thank you. Reeling off all those credits. Yeah, I got to keep busy. That's all I can say.
You do it. You are all of those things, and that's how you occupy
Yeah.
your time, and that's what makes you happy. How's your summer been going?
What summer? I've been looking out the window, watching people having a lovely life while I've been working. I mean, that's pretty much been it. I've been on the promo trail now for a considerable amount of time. I mean, months and months and months. Um, it's exhausting. What can I say? Especially when you're not used to being in front of the camera again or talking about the work that you do necessarily. Um, because a lot of the work that I do obviously is mostly behind the scenes these days, and so it's remembering how, who, what, when, where, and how to do things anymore on the music front. Um,
An evil
it's been
necessity, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely, but it's been okay. It's been okay. I'm hanging on. I'm hanging on there.
Well, that's good. Well, that's good. Thank you again for your time. A couple of
Of
things
course.
happened during this COVID time. One, you decided to put out a brand new album,
Hmm.
first album in 11 years. And then you also legally changed your name. Let's
Yeah,
talk about first that name change.
yeah. Well, um, yeah, well, it was tied in with the album in many respects, and why Jude is Jude. In 2020, I just, I was going over the years. We grow and we want to be more in touch with ourselves and be happier and find balance and peace and blah blah blah. Um, and I'd always taken issue with my name legally. When I was born, was in my passport was John Charles Julian Lennon, and my parents and everybody I knew called me Julian. So I kind of tired of being over the years the kind of second John, and there were a few issues I had going to airports and security and this, that, and the other. And, people would look at my passport and go, John, oh, that's funny. Oh, are you related? Anyway, there were many, many quips. And, after many, many years, I just had enough. And I just wanted to be me. And I was been obviously through the pandemic and through the recording process. Was looking internally, and I wanted to find who I was through all of this in reality, and I wanted to be me. And I said, you know, I, I want to change my name. So in 2020, I just by deed poll, I wanted to respect the name and the sequence that I'd been given and the cadence I loved as John Charles Julian Lennon, but I wanted to be Julian, so I just decided to switch to Julian Charles John Lennon, so that now any documentation that's opened regarding me in any way, shape, or form is Julian. So finally being me, finally being Julian, and my nickname has always been Jules as well. So hence Jude, and not a coming of age, but finally kind of taking ownership of where I've come from, my heritage, and it was time for me to collectively put that all together and look at the future in a very positive way. Um, and that's roughly where that all came from, what it was all about.
Pretty interesting how time moves on and time changes us as we get older, our
Yes,
mentality changes, and
sure.
we start thinking about all of this stuff, right? And so the time is right now to embrace it all, right? And
Yeah.
come out with this album, entitle it Jude, and have a
Mm,
picture of your childhood self on the cover of it, right?
yeah.
This is the time, wasn't it, Julian?
Yeah, I know, definitely, because again, part of the Yeah, after doing music for over 30 years, also, and also as an independent artist, the last 20 years with the previous two albums, Photograph, Smile, and Everything Changes. You know, I thought Everything Changes was really going to be the last album because I was just tired of putting heart and soul into the work and nobody really
Mm,
hearing it. Um,
mm-hmm,
and I thought, what else could I do?
mm,
I need to prove to myself that outside of music, that I'm capable of doing other things that I'm passionate about, uh, that could help people also. That in the position that I'm in. Initially it started with the White Feather Foundation, really, and then
mm.
I've been involved in as an exec producer in documentaries and also the children's books, and then the photography, which is tied into everything as well. Um, I wanted to prove to myself first and foremost that I was capable of building a foundation of work, body of work outside of music that I could be proud of. And then, if I wanted to come back to music, then, I really didn't care anymore what any remarks would be, um, either way, because I felt that I'd proved my worth, and that was important. So
Mm.
it was about, coming of age in that respect, in just having that belief in myself and finding some balance and peace um, and being in a place now that I'm probably more together and more focused than I've ever been in my life. So, and the whole album was a journey, and it's music from 30 to 40 years,
Yeah.
up to the end of putting the album together, which was about 2 years ago. Because mixing alone took about a year,
Wow.
thanks to the pandemic. Because the mixer, Spike Stent, was in Los Angeles, I was in Europe, and not only was there a time difference issue, but we were also working on other projects as well. So normally that takes 10 days to mix an album, roughly, maybe a little more or less, but, a year long. But that gave me time, to actually breathe and really listen to, making sure the mixes and the album felt the best that they could be. So, in that respect, it was okay.
So good. And just to backtrack, Photograph Smile, one of my favorite albums in your catalog too. Really
Thank you.
love that
Thank you.
album. Fantastic
Thank
stuff.
you.
But Jude is this brand new album, 11 songs, first album in 11 years. You have a thing for that number 11.
I don't know what's going on. I really don't know what's going. You know,
Right?
I mean, I'm not really superstitious. My grandmother was, but I just kept seeing the number 11 everywhere, and I'd actually finished the album pretty much at 10 songs. But I really just didn't feel that Stay was the right way to exit this project, and Gaia came along at, towards well, at the very end, really, and it was at number 11, and I just felt it was the right way to leave, to go out, uh, with the curtains closing. I mean, it's not the
Splendid way to
end.
close the album.
Thank
Splendid
you.
way to close the album. We have two people to thank for you making this new album, Jude. Hartwig Masuch, the CEO of the record
Yeah.
label BMG, and your
Yeah.
old business manager in the UK who had retired, who had left you with a bunch of DAT tapes and reel to reels and stuff
Well,
like that.
I certainly don't want to give him credit. That's another story.
But
But certainly Hartwig, yes. Hartwig, I'd run into, well, in fact, two friends of mine on opposite sides of the planet ran into him over the course of 6 months to a year. My name came up. I've no idea how that happened. But he had said to both of them, if Jules ever wants to make music again, or an album, please get him to reach out to me. And that stuck with me. That stuck with me, and I hadn't thought about it really, but I was well into photography at that time, working with Leica, and I was going to an event in Berlin for Leica, and I recall that BMG was in Berlin, Hartwig was in Berlin. I found him on social media. I didn't have a number or connect with him. I just wrote to him and said, "Listen, I'm coming to Berlin tomorrow for 24 hours. got time for lunch. I didn't think he was going to find me, come back to me on social media, but he did. He said, "Yes, I'd love lunch," and we met, and I liked him a great deal. I trusted him. He was a musician too, so, and I loved his passion, his real passion for storytelling, and certainly, I've got a story to tell. That'll be in the book, by the way, whenever that happens. But he was the one that kind of pushed for an album, because with today's market, I was looking at everybody going, well, album. Who does an album really? But
Right, singles, EPs.
exactly, which is what I wanted to do, and what probably is where I'll go to after this, is because the only reason I truly say that is because this album happened at a time and a place with the pandemic, etc., under particular circumstances. But because I couldn't do any of the other work, I was trapped at home, so I wasn't running around the world for the White Feather Foundation, or doing photography projects or documentaries. And but I do want to get back to all of that now that things have opened up again. But I still want to, I still have boxes of tapes, boxes that I want to go through. So for me, singles, and probably more so EPs, is the way to go for me in the future. That as and when I can get to music in between all the other stuff, I'll just go, okay, I love that. All right, that works. Okay, I'm throwing it out there. So it doesn't become the big pressure of an album that I've always felt before, and that sense of loss when an album is kind of shelved after couple of years' work, and you just feel empty, and what's the point, But I guess EPs in the way of the future does allow me to do that without that stress and strain.
In these songs, a lot of these songs, if not all of them, stretch back 30 years to your debut, Velat, right? And
Yeah.
you rediscovered these audio recordings and worked on them just a little bit. There's some original stuff that we hear on Jude that dates back years, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't date back that far, but when I lived in Los Angeles about 30 years ago, uh, I think it was around the time, would have been around the time of Mr. Jordan and/or Help Yourself, late
Okay.
80s, 90s. Songs like Every Little Moment was the first one that we brought up on the faders from the tapes that we found. And we had them cleaned up. And I was surprised at how good they sounded.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounded like we recorded them last week. But for me, late 80s and 90s were very familiar with drum machines. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to put a bit more life back into them. So I had a great drummer, Ash Sohn, play on many of the tracks that we did, old and new, just for the continuity. And a few other great people like Michael League and Bill Lawrence, but from Snarky Puppy, but who'd become friends. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm going off to the left here. But yes, Every Little Moment sounded great to me, and I just, the only thing I did on that was put real drums on and clean it up and sing the chorus a little harder because I felt it needed it. Not One Night, that was an older one that I had sung in. I had one little guest bedroom with a tape machine in the back, called an Alesis 12 track, and I
Mm.
remember just singing that in the back bedroom as naturally and as emotionally as I could. And I tried to re-record that over the course of several other albums, but it just didn't feel the same. It just didn't quite have what I felt should be should be the. I couldn't beat the original vocals, is what I'm saying. So even that, even though there's maybe a note here or there, it's not perfection. But for me, it had the emotion that was the most honest and most real. And so that's all of Not One Night, bar the strings. There's only new strings on it. The rest is original from
Wow.
plus 30 years ago. All the other stuff
Phenomenal.
is some stuff is written over the last 5 years, some 10 years, some 20 years. So it's a real collection of some of the material that I have that I found in boxes and new. And there's more of that to come.
Phenomenal. Jude is the brand new album from our guest, Julian Lennon. Love the album. People talk about your dad and the legacy he left behind. I want to know from you, Julian, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want yourself to be remembered?
Well, I think I've demonstrated that through the work that I've done already, and I'm thankful that I made that decision to follow the other dreams and passions that I had outside of music. I think that was an important move for me, to just feel worthy, and have purpose outside of music. I think that was massively important. And that's the journey I wish to continue on, is in whatever medium I find myself in. I feel so, again, lucky ones feel lucky enough to be in a position to try to help as many people as I can with the White Feather Foundation and with the other mediums that I work in, to help those less fortunate. I mean that's it. So if you look at what we do at White Feather, it's we're trying to save indigenous tribes and their cultures and their land around the world. Health and education, scholarship for girls on behalf of my mum, clean water, conservation for life. I mean, I'm good
You're doing
with
great
that.
things.
I'm good with that.
You're doing great things. JulianLennon.com is his website. Jude, the brand new stunning album, is out right now. Such a pleasure. Been loving all of your music your entire life. You keep doing you. People can go check out your photographs, by the way, on your Instagram page. That's your main place for people to go and check out some great things that you've been putting out there.
I would say Instagram is more like a message board for me. It's some daily stuff. I post some professional stuff there, but yeah, it covers a lot of ground. Instagram, on many levels. So I'm at Jules's Picture Palace. Make sure make sure it's the one with the blue check and the blue star next to it, because there's a lot of fakes out there. That's something I want to get onto. Believe you me, I don't think it's right. Anyway, that's another subject for another time.
Julian Lennon, everybody. Jude, go grab it. Wonderful album. Julian, is such a pleasure, such an honor. Thank you so much. Thank you for all of your art and all that you do for everyone around the world, and especially us music lovers here at radio stations and the listeners of your music. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Dave. Really, thank you very, very much. Honestly.
You take care of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.